cut because I'm getting heated. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about just lack of respect in our industry. That's what I want to talk about because a lot has been going on today, the day I'm filming this, a lot of which I don't feel qualified to speak on, but I do feel qualified to speak on what's happening in the industry that I've been working in for over 5 years, so there we go. Before we get started, there is no show of the week, but I will be linking to independent theatres, small producing theatres, small houses in London that have shows that they are putting on once theatres can reopen. By the time you see this, theatres will be allowed to reopen. If you feel comfortable and you're based in London and you want to see some live theatre and support some live theatre, please consider checking out the things that I'll link in the description. Yeah, just please consider supporting venues that, you know, have a fairly good history of ethics and of supporting creators and creatives and freelancers. Not every venue is perfect, so do your due diligence with that if you are so inclined, but shout out to all of the theatres that actually do a good job or try and do as good a job as possible with usually less resources than some other people to try and do right by their creatives that they employ. Right, let's get on with the video. This video has been sparked by a tweet I saw earlier today that's just been playing on my mind. I wasn't gonna film a video today. Well, I did film a video this morning, but like that was gonna be it, and then I just can't get this off my mind, so I want to talk about it. If I can find the tweet again, I'll put a screenshot on the screen so you can see it because it is public. But I saw a tweet from someone who I assume is on a creative team for a show, basically saying that they don't think the show that they had on before the pandemic is going to be remounted because the theatre that it was at is going to be sold. I have a summation of the venue that she's talking about because a very high profile musical theatre venue, it was announced yesterday, is being sold. So I would assume it is the same theatre, but I don't actually know which theatre it is, just to clarify. It kind of got my head turning and thinking about other times similar things have happened. Most notably recently, at the beginning of this year, when theatres were told because of the roadmap that they would be able to open from the 17th of May, loads of West End shows announced their new casts for the shows that they were going to be remounting. And when that happened, there were loads of actors publicly saying on Twitter how upset and how disappointed and frustrated they were that they only found out that they didn't get jobs they had been auditioning for when they saw the cast announcements on social media. And this wasn't like they only did their first round months ago and they didn't hear anything back, although you should still hear back even if it is a first round. But these were actors who'd got to the final rounds of auditions when you're only against one or two, maybe three other people. So to not hear a thanks but no thanks and only find out you didn't get the job when you're hoping that you got the job by seeing that someone else got it on like a congratulations to our new cast kind of post is a bit gutting and unprofessional on behalf of the producers of those shows, in my opinion. But this isn't the only time stuff like this has happened. Also, at the beginning of this pandemic, I remember last year in March, April time, lots of actors, again in West End shows, coming forward on Twitter saying that they only found out that the shows that they were in had been cancelled when it was announced on social media for audiences. They hadn't heard from their company managers, they hadn't heard from any of the creative team that the show was now closed until further notice. They found out on Twitter. So this incident about this person's show maybe not being put back on because the theatre is being sold just seems like another evidence of a pattern of behaviour. And that pattern of behaviour to me seems like a lack of respect for the freelancers and creatives that make this industry. My mind boggles at this point because we've all been talking about it throughout this whole pandemic. People have been very open and vocal about the lack of communication and the lack of clarity as to what's going on, especially actors, because actors tend to be the bottom of the rung when it comes to communicating what's actually going on. We're always the last to know. And also with the toll that this pandemic is taking on everyone's mental health, not being able to see loved ones, not having any work, not knowing if you're gonna have any income, not getting enough income, not getting support, you would think people would be more aware of the things that they can do to try and help the situation. But when it comes to some of these large established names, producers, impresarios in our commercial theatre industry, they just haven't got the message. And this lack of respect also doesn't make any sense because, again, like I said, it's the freelance creatives that make this industry. So for example, actors. I'm always the first to say that actors are by no means the most important people when it comes to making a show. Like, without lighting technicians, we wouldn't be lit. Without sound designers, we wouldn't be heard. Without costume designers, we wouldn't have any clothes on. Without a writer, there wouldn't be a script. I, as an actor, am totally like, there are other people whose jobs are also equally as important as mine. Let's not get it twisted. However, actors are still very important. If you write a play and you don't want to respect your actors, if you have no respect for your actors, then get up on stage and do it yourself. There's a reason that writers, choreographers, directors, producers need the actors to do the work they do. And if you want us and need us to do the work we do, at least do the basic decent thing of respecting us. That's that on that. And then kind of extending onto this new situation, again, you could be the proprietor of the biggest, most flashy, most up-to-date, fanciest, snazziest theatre in the world. If you're a receiving house and you don't want to respect the companies that are coming into your theatre, then what are you gonna have on your stage? Nothing. You're just gonna be a big empty building with an overpriced bar. You need the companies coming in to fill your theatre. So respect them because you need them. Without them, you are nothing. It's almost like it's a little microcosm of our society in general at the moment, but hey. What do I know about social politics? And the other thing that's the kicker in this whole thing is that it's not that hard to make this like a little bit better than it is. It's not hard to do the basic decent thing. All you have to do is send an email. And you don't even have to do it like West End producer people. You have stuff, I'm sure. You've got billions of pounds in the bank. You've got multiple theatres in your name. So you don't even have to send it yourself. Just get your assistant or PA or head of communications to be like, okay, before we send this press release saying that we're selling our theatre, have we sent an email to all of the shows that were programmed before the pandemic? Before we put out this cast announcement, have we got in touch with everyone who made the final round to tell them if they did or didn't get the job? Before we put out this Twitter bulletin to our audience saying that the show is closed indefinitely, have we told the company that they're gonna be out of work for the foreseeable future? That's not that hard. That's not that hard at all. It doesn't cost you any money. It would take like a fraction of time. Even if you want to completely half-ass it and literally just do a general standard email saying dear all and just send it to everyone on the mailing list, it would take you 5 minutes and then everyone would know what was going on. It's not that difficult. I also think that this is symptomatic of a wider culture of just not respecting freelance workers in general, not just in theatre but in all creative fields, and even I imagine non-creative fields where freelance working is a model of working and a model of employment. The fact that so often freelancers have to chase payment that they're owed. There's like clauses protecting freelance and contract workers. There's like a law. I might see if I can find it actually. 2 seconds. So just got my laptop because I've got my invoice template. Yeah, so there is a thing called the Late Payment and Commercial Debts Act of 1998, which basically protects small businesses, freelancers, contractors. So if you don't get paid on time, there's like late fees, and then if you don't get paid on time for those late fees plus what you were originally owed, then there's interest, and then, you know, it can build up to a point where you can then go to court to try and get it back, blah blah blah. So I have like a spiel as a footer on my invoices with that whole thing, just so that people know that I'm serious, and it's like, oh, you don't pay me on time? Well, this is gonna happen. Enjoy your £40 late fee. Luckily, all of the people that I've worked with have been quite good at invoicing, or I've been paid through my agent who, you know, When someone else can chase for you, that makes it easier. But the fact that I need that on my invoices is like, just pay people on time, you know? The fact that freelancers so often need to chase payment. Then there's also the fact that so many people don't want to pay freelance workers what they're worth, to the point where if you're a freelancer and you don't feel confident or you don't feel able to confidently explain your worth, to say my time and my skill is worth this much because of XYZ, you're left at a point where you either have to capitulate for a lower price that maybe you can't properly live on or doesn't take into account all of your expenditure and, you know, your skill and your time, or you have to turn down work, which can be a very stressful thing to do as a freelancer. But, you know, if people just accepted that that's the price of the thing, then it'd be fine. And it's frustrating because I want this industry to get better. And there's still a chance for this, but I really, really hoped that this pandemic was going to allow us as an industry to reassess and be like, okay, how can we make the lives of our creatives better and fulfilling in this industry? How do we make sure that pay is fair? How do we make sure that we're respecting all of our creatives? How do we make sure that we're inclusive and no one is getting left behind? How do we do all those things? This simple thing of just not letting people know what's happening needs to change. The lack of respect needs to stop, and it needs to change if we want to make our industry stronger. That's just a fundamental bottom line. You can't foster a supportive and caring and industrious and rewarding industry without respect for every single person that contributes to that industry. You can't do it. And the thing that's crazy to me is that everyone else seems to have got that message. Everyone's been like, yeah, we need more support for freelancers. Equity's been talking about having some kind of universal basic income for creatives. People are talking about making sure that freelancers are employed by theatres, not just hired on a project by project basis. People have got the message, apart from these industry leaders in our commercial theatre sector, the people who run our West End, which if you're just a layman who doesn't know anything about theatre, that's probably the one thing that you know about theatre, is that we have the West End. And yet the people who have the most control over that, who own the venues, who have the money to produce the shows, aren't respecting the people on the ground who are actually making the work happen. And I just think it's disgusting, to be honest. I think it's really, really disgusting. And that's not even taking into account the things that have been said about hit band musicians. I'm sure you've heard what's happened with, you know, the Phantom of the Opera and their hit band being basically halved, and some of the fallout of that. I mean, the point where the industry publication is writing editorials saying that the comments of one of these West End industry leaders are completely out of touch. Like, that's saying something. When you have billions and billions of pounds and you own all of the theatres and you have all the money, of course you're going to be out of touch with what's going on underground. Of course you're going to be like, how can violinists work in Sainsbury's and not realise that for the vast majority of performers, for the beginning, if not all of their career, that's the kind of stuff they have to do to make ends meet. So this doesn't necessarily surprise me, but also the fact that they haven't got the message, like they didn't get the memo, is kind of worrying to me, because how out of touch can you be to not realize that not letting someone involved in a show that was on at your theatre know that your theatre is going to be sold? I just don't understand how you cannot realise that that is a severe oversight. I'd be really interested to know what you guys think, to be honest. I'm kind of at a point now where I don't really know what to do because I kind of mentioned this in the video that I filmed this morning. Even if I don't end up posting that, I'm probably going to post it after this one if I do. But I don't think the answer is boycotting West End theatres necessarily, just because there are so many people involved in a West End show, and it's like, I think about someone who I'm like, I'd rather not give you my money, but like, if I want to see a show that I really do want to support and it happens to be in a venue you own, like, what am I supposed to do? Not to mention, if people don't go and see shows, not saying you should just go see everything just because, but if there's a show I want to see, should I not go see that show because I know that someone is involved in it, when if everyone thought like me, that would put countless actors, backstage crew, costume designers, associate directors, associate choreographers, front of house staff potentially out of work for however long until they can get a new show in. The capitalism involved in theatre isn't as simple as just don't give them your money. But I don't know how to change the culture, because the culture is coming from the top. I think everyone underneath that top knows what should be done, but if the top people calling the shots aren't interested in doing what needs to be done to make the industry better, what can you do? And I think the answer is probably getting fresh producers in. I think it's time just for the next generation of producers who I would hope are kind of on the same train as the rest of us of wanting to make this industry more inclusive, more caring, and just a better industry to work in. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I'd be interested to hear them. And thank you so much for watching. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Would love to have you on the channel. Come on down. Stay tuned for more theatre content from a UK perspective, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, friends!